If you were to ask any salesperson, what is the number one objection? Why don't you sell? Why don't people buy from you? The answer would be price. Usually you're wrong, but that's the way it always feels. The reason the customer didn't buy was price. So why do salespeople have such a tough problem overcoming price objections? One of the reasons why is they don't have a system in which to handle it. So what they do is they guess. It's kind of like this. Let's say that we were both in Afghanistan. And it's midnight, it's dark out, and we're down in a trench, and we can hear let's say the Taliban, we can hear them out there, and we can hear them talking. They're all out there. We can hear them screaming and talking, but we don't see anybody. And we're down in the trenches with our machine guns loaded. And what happens to most salespeople is they get antsy down in the trench. And what they'll do is they'll start hearing all of the objections, and they want to come up out of that trench first, and they want to just start shooting, and they just start shooting and shooting and shooting. And then what happens is the sun comes up and they have no bullets left. Taliban standing there saying, "Hey, you have no bullets left. You're a dead man." What we want to do is we want to stay down in the trench until we can see our target. And so here's kind of how it works. Most salespeople, they're down in the trench and the customer says, "Well, we can't afford to buy that," or "That's more than what we had budgeted." And most sales guys come up and say, "Well, we got 1 year, same as cash, and hey, we can do this, you need to do that." And they just start shooting out all of their ammunition trying to close the deal without being able to see the target. They don't actually know what the true objection is. They don't know when they would have the money or if they would have the money. They don't know, is it that they don't have the money or they don't want to spend that much money, and so they just guess. And almost 25% of the time, you guess right, which means 75% of the time, you guess wrong. That's why people have low closing percentages. What we want to do is stay down in the trenches. We want to stay down in that trench until we can see our target. What we call this is a 3-step system to overcome price objections. I call it the walk of life. The reason I call it the walk of life is, as we just said, what happens with most sales guys is they'll start to just walk in circles and just start guessing and screaming out things instead of walking with a purpose and getting one step closer to the sale with everything you do. That's why I call it the walk of life. Every step gets you one step closer to the sale. It's a simple process. It gets us where we need to be, and it allows us to see the light so we don't have to guess, and we can actually offer the customer exactly what it takes to close that deal. The walk of life, 3 steps. The first step of the walk of life, a customer gives you a price objection. That's more money than we thought it was going to be. Step number 1 is, well, how much did you think it was going to be? The customer gives you any answer, $1,000, $10,000. They may say, "I don't know." Any answer they give you, your next response is going to be, "Well, now that you see what we do and how we do it, can you understand why it would be more than you thought it was going to be?" The answer to that question is going to always be yes if you've done a great presentation. Once you have the answer to that, which means they see the why it's more than they thought. If they thought it was going to be 4,000 and we're 6, now all we have to do to make sure that that customer feels comfortable is justify 2,000 now instead of 6, and or make to where our project fits their budget instead of us trying to make them pay what they can't afford. So we have a point here where we're only working with the 2,000. That's the difference. But here is the one question that will make the daylight come up so you can see your target. That question is, now that you've seen the price, how long would it take you to come up with the rest of the money? And what happens is when they answer that question, it's like being in that trench, and all of a sudden the sun comes up and you can see your target, and you just say, boom, boom, boom. So here's how it would play out. You're in the trench. You give the customer the price. The customer says, that's more money than I thought it was going to be. You stay down in the trench and you say, well, Mr. Jones, how much did you think it was going to be? He says, I thought it was going to be about 4,000. You stay down in the trench and you say, well, now that you see what we do and how we do it, can you understand why it's more than you thought it was going to be? He says, yes, I can understand it. You're still in the trench. And then you say, well, now that you've seen the price, how long would it take you to come up with the rest of the money? And he says, at least 6 or 7 months. And the sun comes up. And I say, boom, I give him more than 6 or 7 months, and I have the sale. I never guess. I have information before I prescribe. It's really simple. It's like a doctor. The only way the doctor can prescribe something for you, he has to know what is it that bothers you. Where are you hurting at? And once he knows that, then he can prescribe. That's exactly what we're doing by asking those questions. How long would it take you to come up with the rest of the money? Now I know what his situation is, and I can prescribe the correct solution. That's what the walk of life does. It allows us to take from darkness to the light shines up till we can see our target and we can prescribe the right thing for that customer without guessing. What that does is it takes the pressure off of the customer. One of the major things about the walk of life, the reason why it's been so successful and the reason why customers will love what we do and they say, well, if they didn't high pressure me, is because the walk of life is designed to take the pressure off of the salesperson as well as take the pressure off of the customer. I call this put the pressure in the middle. Let me illustrate what I mean by put the pressure in the middle. I'm going to need to bring my volunteer back in, and we're going to show you what I mean by put the pressure in the middle. If you'll come on in. Okay? All right. So now, if you were a salesperson and you were trying to convince me to buy from you, now, let's say you just do it the way you would normally do it without knowing anything about the system we're teaching. You're trying to sell me something, and I tell you, hey, you know what? That's more money than I thought it was going to be. So now I want you to convince me to buy it, to go ahead and buy it. Tell me what you might be able to do, just however you would do it.
Okay, so I'm trying to sell you something, and you want it, but it's just more than you.
Yeah, sell me the football.
So what I'm hearing is that you feel like my price is too high for this football. You know, I don't know if you're aware that this is actual genuine leather. So, and it may not seem like a big deal, but a lot of footballs, 1 year they're worn out and you throw it away. You know, if you like playing football, and I've seen you with your kids, this football lasts forever, and you know that's one thing to think about.
Now ask me to buy it.
So, you know, I mean, in light of that, what do you think?
All right, now stop right there. That's exactly what sales guys do all day. You tell me, what do I think? So what just happened there was you took all of the pressure. So you went through telling me all about the football, genuine leather is going to last forever. And you're sitting there. You hold the football. Football is pressure. Okay, you're holding the pressure. You got all the pressure on you. I'm just sitting here listening, and you take all of that pressure, and then you throw it on me, and you say, what do you think? And now the weight of all that pressure that was building up on you comes to me. And now I'm like, let me think about it, or call me back. And I feel pressure. Okay, now that's exactly what happens in the sales process. What we want to show you how to do is to take that pressure off of you and off of the customer. And we want to put the pressure in the middle. Now, one thing I want to talk to you about is what you did that most salespeople do. What did you talk about the most in that role play?
The football.
The football. What's my objection?
The price.
The price. That's what's amazing. Guys, you don't understand that. Hey, if price is the objection, I need to be figuring out where I need to be, what I need to do, not trying to justify my price. And I'm going to show you in our 3-step process, step number 2 is designed to find out if you already justified your price. So let's take a look at putting the pressure in the middle. All right. This time, I want you to be the customer. I'm going to be the salesperson. Okay. And you answer my questions. And what we're going to do is whoever's time to talk has the football. So what's going to happen is I'm going to ask you for the order. I'll give you the way we do it. I would say, well, would you be in a position to write us a personal check or take advantage of one of our payments? You're going to tell me that's more money than you thought it was going to be. Okay, and then we'll play that out from there. And whenever it's time for you to talk, I'm going to throw you the football. When you answer my question and it's time for me to talk, you throw the football back. Okay, toss it back. Okay, now what I want everybody to see is this. Yes, it's a football, but I want you to imagine this as pressure. We can physically see the pressure because whoever's talking got the pressure. Okay, so here we go. Once the job is complete and you're satisfied, would you be in a position to write us a personal check or take advantage of one of our payment options?
Well, before we get there, I'm still kind of feeling like it's probably more than I had budgeted for.
Well, let me ask you this. About how much did you have budgeted for this project?
I mean, I was thinking, $4,000 maybe.
Well, now that you've seen what we do and how we do it, can you understand why it's a little more than you thought it was going to be?
Yes, I mean, I can, but my budget is my budget, right?
I understand. Let me ask you this. Now that you've seen the price, how long would it take you to come up with the rest of the money?
Well...
Now stop right there. It doesn't matter what he says. It doesn't matter what he says. The bottom line is, think about this. We have options. If he says 3 months, I always want to give him more than he asked for. So if he says 3 months, then what I will do is I'll give him 6 months. We have 6 months, same as cash. So if he'll have the money in 3 months, I give him 6. What are you going to say now if I give you more time than you asked for? If he says 9 months, I give him 12. If he says to me, I don't know how long it's going to take me to come up with the rest of the money, then what I'll do is I'll ask him a question like, well, let me ask you this. About how much did you have set aside for this project? He tells me, well, I only had $4,000. Well, now I can take the $4,000 as a down payment, reduce all of my other payments down to the ridiculous, and then offer him small monthly payments. If he says to me, I don't want to do any payments. So now think about that. He doesn't want to pay the $6,000 that it is. He has $4,000. And he doesn't want to do payments, the next thing is pretty simple. I go to what we call a partial, which means if we can take something out of the job, we can lower or take it down something, take one thing out of the job or change something on the project to reduce the price down to where his budget is. We call taking that to a partial. So whatever his answer is, it doesn't matter because I have an answer for every single thing that he says. But what I wanted, the illustration here is where did the pressure remain? Neither one of us, because it went back and forth. Back and forth. And the pressure stayed in the air. And the pressure came off of you before you had time to really feel it. That's the reason why customers don't feel any pressure. And it looks like we're there to help them instead of to force them into something. Okay, so here's what I want to do the reverse. Now, the first question is going to be, how much did you think it was going to be? The second question is, now that you see what we do and how we do it, can you understand why it's more than you thought it was going to be? And the third question, that big question that makes the sun come up, that question is, now that you've seen our price, how long would it take you to come up with the rest of the money? Okay, now, so you're going to start out with the football, and I'll start out with the football, and I'm going to tell you, okay, it's more money than I thought it was going to be, and then we're going to start from there. You ready? Okay, you know, that's just more money than I thought it was going to be.
Okay, how much did you expect that it would be?
You know, I mean, I was thinking maybe 3,000 or 4, definitely not 6.
Okay, but now that you've seen everything we do and everything that goes into this, can you understand why we charge 6 for it?
Okay, now stop right there. Don't say 6. The reason I don't want to put a dollar amount on it, I don't want him to say, well, I can see where it would be more, but not 6. So I just want him to answer more, and then I'll worry about the difference. Make sense? Mm-hmm. All right, try it again. All right, that's just more money than I thought it was going to be.
How much money did you think it was going to be?
You know, I was thinking maybe 3 or 4,000, definitely not 6.
Okay, but now that you've seen everything that goes into this process, do you understand why it would be more?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that, man, but it's still a lot of money.
Okay, so how long do you think it would take you to come up with that difference?
Okay, now stop right there. Remember, we've always talked about softening it up. I don't want it to say, well, how long is it going to take you to come up with the rest of it? Because that's too hard. I want to soften it up by saying, well, now that you've seen the price, about how long would it take you to come up with the rest of the money? Soften it up. No pressure. Soft. No pressure. One more time.
Okay. Okay, you just objected.
Okay, let's make it real. Okay. That's just more money than I thought it was going to be.
Okay, how much were you expecting it to be?
Now, I want to show you one other thing here while we're doing this, because this is really important. I want you to use the exact words that the customer uses. Okay. For example, okay? All right, that's more money than I thought it was going to be.
Okay. How much money were you expecting it?
Not expecting. How much did you think it was going to be? I said thought, you say think. Same thing, okay? All right, here we go. That's more money than I had budgeted for this project.
How much money did you have budgeted for this project?
Beautiful. Okay, let's do it again. That's more money than we were looking at putting into this house.
Okay. How much money were you looking at putting into this house?
Nice. That's what I want, because now it sounds like I'm listening to you and I'm responding to the response. Respond to the response. You ready? All right, here we go. That's just more money than we were looking at spending at this time.
Okay. How much money were you looking at spending this time?
Well, I mean, you know, we were thinking maybe 3,000 or 4,000 at the most.
Okay, but now that you've seen everything we do and everything that goes into this, can you understand why it's a little more?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that, but like I said, you know, it is quite a bit of money.
Okay, I understand. But now that you've seen our price and you've seen everything that goes into it, what do you think it would take to get that difference?
No, you're way off, okay? Now, remember, we're not asking them anything except, now that you've seen the price, how long would it take you to come up with the rest of the money? Now, what we're looking for here is for them to give us a time or to tell us that they don't want to come up with the rest of the money. Either one, if they give us a time, it's done. Okay. If they tell us they don't want to come up with the rest of the money, then we're going to have to call something. We're going to have to go to a different solution. Make sense?
That does.
All right, here we go. That's just more money than we had budgeted for this project.
Okay. How much money did you have budgeted for this project?
About $3,000, about all we really budgeted for it.
Okay. But now that you've seen everything that we do and everything that goes into this product, can you see why it costs a little more?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I mean, but it's still, I mean, it's a lot of money, and we just really wasn't looking at spending that much.
Okay, I understand. But now that you've seen everything that goes into it, how long would it take you to come up with that difference?
6 months. Doesn't matter what I say. Now, anything that I say, you have an answer for. And here's the great thing about it. The reason why you don't feel any pressure is because what are you thinking I'm going to do? I'm going to come back whenever you say. If I say, oh yeah, it's going to be 6 months, you're thinking I'm going to call you back in 6 months. So you'll say that in a relaxed manner because you're not feeling any pressure, because you think I'm going to leave and come back in 6 months. Now, all I have to do is I know exactly what your situation is, and I have to prescribe the correct solution. And the correct solution is, if you have 4,000 now, you'll have the other 2,000 in 6 months. If I take the 4,000 you have now, and I give you 12 months to come up with the other 2,000, you said you definitely have it in 6 months. Then why would you say no? If you got plenty of time and you'll have it in that amount of time anyway. and I give you more than you asked for. Other than, because he said, remember in the pre-close, he said, other than price or payment, there wouldn't be any reason. So now we met the price and we gave him enough time to come up with the rest of the money. There's really no other thing to do except buy from you.
Okay.
That's what it means. And now, the reason why the football goes back and forth is we're trying to make sure we keep the pressure off of you and the pressure off of me. Okay? Does that make sense? I'll show you. I'll do it. You be the customer this time. Okay? So you start out with the objection.
I mean, it sounds good. It's just more than what we had planned on spending.
Well, let me ask you, about how much were you planning on spending?
I mean, 4,000 we'd put together.
Well, now that you see what we do and how we do everything, can you see why it's a little more than what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I understand why it costs that much.
Now that you've seen our price, about how long would it take you to come up with the rest of the money?
Oh man, I mean, we're talking 2,000. I don't know, maybe 9 months.
Well, I tell you what, here's what we'll do for you. We'll go ahead and get the project done for you. It's gonna look absolutely beautiful. You go ahead and give us the 4,000 just like you were planning on doing, and we'll set the rest of it up for you where you don't have to pay the rest, not in 6 months, not even in 9 months. You won't have to pay the rest of it for 12 whole months. That'll work for you, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, you're saying I can do it, 4,000 now, and then the rest over 9 months.
You can pay for it anytime you want
12
to
months.
in the next 12 months.
Okay.
You said you'd have it in 9.
In 9.
So now I want you to think about what this does to the customer. Now he has no excuse. He said he'd have the money in 9. I give him 12. He's already said, other than price of payment, there wouldn't be any reason he wouldn't do it. He's already said he understood why it would be more. He feels no pressure because he told me when he'd have the money, I just gave him the correct solution to solve his problem.
Right.
Now, if he really wants it, he's gonna buy it. And he didn't feel any pressure.
Right.
That's what I mean by pressure in the middle.